Hello Scorpio friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Scorpio October 2021 Astrology Must Knows. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to see the long list of free goodies that I have for you. You don't want to miss anything. I work hard to make you. And if you forget that website address, anniehelpsyou.com, by the time this video is done, you can click on the More button underneath the video with the little arrow and it will reveal all kinds of links that you can get to that site and to other things that I've made. This video is for you if Scorpio is your sun sign or your moon sign or your rising sign or any Scorpio placement really. This information that I'm sharing here will be part of your astrological picture for this month and beyond because we will be getting a sneak peek into November and December as well. Also, if you are late degree Scorpio, so basically November 11th through the rest of the sign or 20 to 29 degrees, then I also suggest that you listen to my Sagittarius reports because those of you who are cuspy have a more complex read and you really need to gather information from the Scorpio end and the Sag end for our Scorpitarius people. Okay, so I'm calling the theme of this month, Major Must Know, the big wake up and eclipse rumblings. We have Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury moving from the retrograde position to the direct position. And along with those movements, lots of things are going to wake up. Some things that have been dormant just since last month with the Mercury retrograde, but some things that have been dormant for many, many, many months, even up to 6 months. So if you had a slowdown in any area of your life at any point this year and you're like, what the heck happened to that thing that was rolling with so much momentum? It could be related to one of these retrogrades, and now that everything is opening up with full force, you will notice that especially in the second half of the month, things might start to come alive and move very rapidly. And this is perfect timing for Scorpios because you're really in a very internal space from the perspective of your chart for the earlier weeks of the month. And you'll be getting ready to start to burst out as the sun moves into your sign, as the other planets start moving into your sign. You'll move from this space of the 12th house of contemplation, of your fears, of your, addictive responses, of your old paradigms, and into the space of making active changes to improve every area of your life and to activate the potentials that you might have been told have been in yourself. Maybe someone's like, you could do this or you should do this, or those things that you felt in yourself that really just want to be activated. You're moving from the beginning of the month of thinking about those things, of seeing what is in your way of accomplishing those things, and then towards the end of the month you're moving into more of a phase of actually doing something about them. Now this is also going to be staggered a little bit depending on where you are in the sign. If you're later in the sign, like let's say you're a November born, you'll start to feel the movement from the internal into the active more into November. But either way, this is happening in this cycle, in this time frame of towards the end of October, the beginning of November. We're moving from the inside to the outside and going from contemplation to action, and it's perfectly aligned with the stars. We actually have a golden opportunity. I'll talk about this more later. I have a beautiful timeline that we're going to go into after we talk about these Scorpio specific things. I'll talk about what to do for the retrograde energies for the first half of the month, how to then align your energies and change your energies towards the end of the month and into November, and the weeks that are in November that are some of the best of the year for launches, big decisions, big steps, moves, sales, purchases, contracts, anything like that. And October is kind of spent working through the muddle and clearing out things to prepare you for this golden period that's coming. So that's very much what this month is about. Soon you're going to be having Venus grace your second house, and this is going to be making a little bit of an awkward angle with your Scorpio placement. So it might mean that finally some work is coming to you if you've been looking for that, or some extra jobs if you're self-employed, but you might have to work a little bit more to get that money. Or if there's something that there's like a goal that you're trying to accomplish, to buy something, November is full of possibilities for making very big purchases. And so things might click together for that thing that you wanted to buy. Okay, let's see. So happy birthday to our October born Scorpio friends. This is always a very exciting time because the universe is exceptionally receptive to your desires at the time of your birthday. It's called a solar return. It's when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point in the chart that it was when you were born. And even those of you who are watching for other placements besides the Scorpio sun, other Scorpio placements, this is still an exciting time because the sun is going to kiss your Scorpio placement, whatever it is, at some point here in October or at some point in November. And when that happens, it brings life and light and rebirth to different areas of your being. Okay, so another must know is that the movements of the planets through Libra, as have been in September, as will be for part of October, have been kind of awkward for you. They're uncomfortable. They're bringing up things. They're making you feel more restless in your mind. They might make your dream space kind of more disturbed. You know, old patterns might have been coming back in. But don't worry, all of this is purposeful. And as the planets move into Scorpio, that should shift a little bit more into a place of clarity and a place of action. So again, as we talked about, that's kind of what the month of October is about. It's like evolving from the inner space to the outer space. And, it's all about relationships as well. Everybody in the zodiac, as the planets are moving through Libra and Scorpio, are very focused on your relationship spaces. So you might be feeling like people in your life need you, or you're evaluating your relationship space, or you're reevaluating your relationship to relationship. And this is all very well purposed at this time. The one big must know is that if you have to make a big decision, for better or worse, in your relationship space, whether it's with a client or with your partner or any relationship, you might want to wait until towards the end of October into November to actually make those decisions, because new information is likely going to be coming, and the web of the retrogrades that can bring confusion and shroud information that is needed for you to make your decision will start letting up as we go through that time. So if you think you've come to a decision, it's possible that as the weeks go on of October and into early November, you might actually change your mind. So we want to give that cycle time to run its course before you do anything big. Something else that is a big must know for Scorpios at this time is that with Jupiter and Saturn waking up, energies in your fourth house that rule real estate, work from home, your family of origin, your family that you have in your household, anything having to do with work that is in the fourth house, like psychology or construction or anything like that. That is going to be coming alive in a big way. That's one of those things that's getting activated as Jupiter and Saturn start to move direct, is that things in those arenas that had gone into the backdrop might start roaring in a very big way. So if you're listening to this now early, as I tend to post them, and those things are not quite flowing for you, don't stress. It's very likely that they're going to start coming ahead, blazing ahead, whether you're ready for them or not, at this time in October. Okay, let's see what else I wanted to talk about. So again, this month, which has been an annoying trend since June, July, August, September, now October, we've had more salty aspects compared to sweet ones. Salty aspects are the ones that are uncomfortable, they're difficult, they're little bumps and jolts. And the ones that are sweet are obviously more harmonious and things that we look forward to. But we've had a bad ratio of difficult aspects to sweet ones, and we have that happening again this month. Little sneak peek teaser for November, we're not going to have that happening in November. So that's pretty exciting. November is one of my favorite months of the whole year, by the way, if you haven't already been able to tell that I'm getting pretty excited about that. But there are some things that we have to get through in October in order to get to that gold. And it doesn't have to be bad either. It's just stuff to deal with. It's like taking the layers of things that aren't you off so that the shiny real you can come out and be seen as we move into that November time. But we do have more salty aspects and sweet ones. And by the way, if you want a list of all the salty aspects, all the sweet ones, what they are, what you can expect from them delivered into your inbox 1 month early, you definitely want to go to anniehelpsyou.com and sign up for my free email newsletter, because I do a fantastic write-up that you have in a written version of many things that I don't talk about in these reports that you can have when you get that. So the way that I like to look at these inconjunct aspects, they're awkward. We've got aspects with Uranus that bring jolts and surprises, is first of all letting go of the idea of something permanent. Okay, permanence in this world is this crazy quest that is not really attainable unless you're looking at the permanence of soul relationships, the permanence of your connection with divine. There are permanence in those types of things, but the way that they manifest is not permanent. With Uranus and Taurus, and then these other little bumps that we have with the planet Uranus this month, it's just speaking to you of this storyline of trying to not hold on to things that are not going to serve you. They could be physical items, they could be relationships, they could be stories within relationships, but a lot of times for Scorpio, they turn out to be emotional baggage, like carrying around things that were comfortable or convenient. And now is a time where you get to shed a lot of that. And along with that is shed the karma of the storyline. So, you know, there's change and there's not change. There's resistance to change and then there's embracing change. And the storyline of navigating between those polarities is really what's coming up this month. And the more that you can look at something and say, why am I holding on to this still? Does it have purpose? Does it really have purpose? Then, you know, then you can make your decisions as the month goes on and into November to start to let go of the things that are just, there's really no reason for them anymore. And it can be very exciting. So while it can feel a little bit unstable and unsettling, what you have is the vitality of change and the vitality of newness and the vitality of, you know, activating potentials that have been sitting within you for so long and they haven't been able to get out because of the shrouds of the things that aren't you. So that's very exciting. So this is a very powerful time for Scorpio because, as we talked about before, as the planets move through your sign, they're sort of activating potentials in you. And you get to make the choice. Are you going to say yes to activating those? Or are you going to say no? Or are you going to say not now? So it will be a very strong process here of making those decisions. The eclipse rumblings are starting to come in now. We'll talk about more of that later, but it's important to know that we are entering eclipse season right at the beginning of October. So that little lull that we had of like recovering from the changes that happened from the May-June eclipses, now we're going to be stepping into the November and December eclipses. And this is very, very, very important for Scorpio placements because we're ending the cycle of Sagittarius-Gemini eclipses, and we're starting the cycle of Taurus-Scorpio eclipses. So whenever you have your sign activated with an eclipse cycle, it's always really, really, really life-changing. And that thing I talked about before of clearing karma and clearing the decks, you're about to step into a couple of years of doing just that. So you've got a little mini opening here where it's like, okay, what easier things can you let go of now? And then you're going to go into a couple of years of, wow, like karma in relationships and karma with your money are just going to be swept clean. And you're going to get a little taste of what that's going to look like here in October, and it will start to firm up more in November and December. And these will be your storylines that you're going to be working with for a couple of years. So pay attention in those arenas. Also, when we get into the segment I've been referring to later, I'll give you the years that the Taurus-Scorpio eclipse cycle happened before and in more recent history. And then you can kind of think back to the kind of things that happened at that point and know that some similar things might come up. Maybe not exactly, but some similar storylines. Okay, so let's see what else I wanted to talk about there. All right, so as these energies move into your first house, it's going to be very much about your physical body, your physicality, your how people are seeing you. This can be a time of extra charisma. This can be a time of extra persuasiveness. Now, I live with a Scorpio. My husband's a Scorpio, so I know how persuasive you all can be just by the way that you are. Your nature is very persuasive, but you're stepping into a period of time, and hopefully he won't be watching this video too clearly because I don't want I don't want to let him know that I'll be more receptive to him being persuasive of things that I've been saying no to before. But just so you all know that you are going to kick into this period of time where, like, if you need to ask for a raise, if you're trying to work on something and you need somebody else's support, or you need a green light from someone else, or you're trying to collaborate with someone else, even if they've said no before or not now, this might be a time where maybe they'll say yes. Okay, so it might be time to go back to some things that you were working on before, especially within your partnership space or something involving someone else. And this could be a financier, this could be a bank. Let's say you were trying to get a loan and you didn't get approved to buy a home. You might go back and they might say yes, and you'll be so excited because November is such a great time to make a purchase like that, especially in the earlier time of November, because then we'll be moving into Venus retrograde, and that has its own separate rules of purchases, which I have so much information. You don't have to worry about being prepared for Venus retrograde, because you can just search for Annie Botticelli or even Annie Venus retrograde, and I think that a ton of things will come up just that way. You'll want to familiarize yourself with what it's good to do during Venus retrograde and what it's good to avoid, because some of those things that you might be wanting to do, you might want to do towards the end of October into November, and that's why astrological planning can be very helpful. Okay, so let me see what else. The awkwardness. Okay, so most of the month you're going to be free flow with as little of an agenda as possible because of the Mercury retrograde. You're going to notice that the energy and the change in the air, you're going to start feeling that. It will be very palpable, and it might set your nerves going a little bit because change is coming for you or for other people around you. It will be in the air. The wind, it might even be extra windy. The winds of change might actually be literally blowing, and you might be like, why is it so windy? We say, those are the winds of change blowing. Okay, so we are starting to have Venus come into Sagittarius, which is really, really helpful because the Scorpio energies are so good for so many things, but they can bog us down in extra emotion and extra internal energies. And with that little spark of Sag, and with Jupiter that rules Sagittarius going direct, the optimism, the hope, the solutions, the spur to action, all of that starting to wake up, and then we're going to be entering the Sagittarius time after the Scorpio time, and so you'll be starting to feel a little bit, kind of like you feel fall in the air a little bit before it happens, or spring in the air before it happens. This Sagittarius energy is going to be sparkling in, and you'll start to be seeing that time is coming soon. So my best recommendation always, especially through the Scorpio time, is to do your inner work. Try to avoid avoidance behaviors. So avoid your escapist behaviors that you use to stop looking at what is the issue and start doing some things like EFT and EMDR and NLP and the Marriage of Spirit by Leslie Temple Thurston, all of my favorite things that I always talk about with inner work time. And that will help you to make the most of this time instead of just getting through this time, because it is full of possibility and it is your time. It's Scorpio time. So that's very exciting. Okay, so now, let me just see if there's anything else. Oh yes, one other thing that I wanted to talk about is that your health house is under some duress because of Chiron's movement there. And while this is going to be more true for the early degree, like the October born, from the whole house perspective, it is actually true for all Scorpio placements. So I'm going to mention it for all of you, which is you might need some help with nutrition, with your diet, with your supplements, with your medications if you're on them, things like that. Might be a time for you to be addressing these things. And top in my mind is nutritional deficiencies, and also top on my mind is genetic testing from the perspective of genetic issues you might have that could be causing health issues that you don't even know about. This is something that I've learned in my health journey, which has been a very strange, very convoluted story. But one of the biggest pearls that I've gotten from my own journey is that I could have avoided so much suffering from the physical perspective if I would have known about certain genetic things earlier in my life. And so looking into these kind of things is very, very, very well indicated for you now, because let's say you find out that you don't process sulfur very well. All right, this is a genetic thing. You could be on certain supplements and avoid certain foods that could prevent you from having psychological issues. It could prevent you from and help clear up any of those. Not all psychological issues are genetically based, but there are people that are listening to me right now that could find out things about their genetics that could change their supplement routine. Of course, all of this from qualified practitioners. And you could just change your life with a couple of small things and prevent problems in the future. So if you've kind of had this on your mind, if it's been in your periphery, let this conversation be the boost that helps you to get there, that it might be one of the best long-term decisions that you make is to start looking into this type of thing now. Okay, so now let's look at that beautiful timeline of sneak peek of November and December, and talk about how you can best use the first half of October and how you can best use the second part of October and into November in order to align with the natural rhythms. Okay, so to understand the theme, the big wake up for October 2021, it's easier, I think, to see it in a visual context, and also to understand October compared to November and December, and what we've got going on in this cluster of time will help you to better understand the energy of this month. All right, so the first thing of note that we've got going on is that these outer planets are waking up. So Pluto on October 6th, Saturn on the 11th, Jupiter on the 18th, and then we've got Mercury also waking up. This is an inner planet, but we've still been in this Mercury retrograde period, since September. So the energy for the first half or so of the month is very much retrograde, okay? And then every day, the 19th, 20th, 21st, every day we march into October, later in the month, these energies that just woke up start to get stronger, all right? So by the time we're at November 3rd, Mercury retrograde is clear, and we enter this golden period of the 3rd through the 17th before the Venus shadow period starts. Venus shadow starts November 18th, gets stronger as the month of November goes on. Venus goes retrograde on December 19th. Okay, so you can see this time between November 3rd and the 17th is this golden opening where these planets have gained a lot of momentum. Mercury is completely strong. Venus has not yet started to slip. So now that we understand this, we'll get back to some of these other pieces here. Let's talk about the retro energies and direct energies and how you use them differently. So basically, the first half of October, we'll say through, of course, the 18th, because that's when everything goes direct. It's very strong in this, and this lingers throughout October, but it starts to get lighter and lighter as the month goes on. And as the month goes on, it gets more into these energies. And then the 3rd through the 17th of November is really, really strong with this energy, okay? So in retrograde time, we want to deal with what comes up more rather than trying to do future planning or, think too much ahead. We want to clear out clutter in any area of our lives, our health, our relationships, our houses, our desk. We want to leave things unscheduled because last minute magic can show up, and the more space you have to receive it, the better. This is a fantastic time for research, not as much the big launches and decisions and agreements and all of this stuff, unless it's unavoidable, but researching these things and making, your pros and cons list, getting information so that you can strike when the iron's hot. The retro time, so, it's basically all of October, but especially through around the 18th, we want to wrap up loose ends and finish old projects. Also, retrogrades are known for confusion, where you can't see that far ahead. You're not sure about what you want to do with any of these kind of things, and if you know that that's happening, then it's okay because you know that it's likely going to clear. It's a time to be in the moment, and it's a time to honor the flow and not force anything. Now, as we get later in October, you'll start to feel the clarity coming back, especially once we get into November, the zest and ideas for new projects, things like big launches, like getting your book out, your creative babies of any sort, your big decisions, your agreements, your paperwork, your investing, your moves, anything like that, future planning, and that back to push and initiate mode away from the don't force mode is another important change that starts to evolve as October goes on. And the more you can do these things in this November 3rd through 17th, you'll have all of the oomph of the direct motion. And I always liken this time to when the tide is going out. Retrograde is like when the tide is going in. If you try to push a message in a bottle out on the shore, to go out to the sea, it's probably going to come bobbing right back to you. That's why these things are better indicated in the retrograde time. But as we move into the direct time, it's time to put your boat afloat, to have the action of the tides going out, to put your bottle out to sea, to put all of your energy out there because you have oomph. Now, as we get into the 18th, the tides from the Venus perspective start slowly rolling in, okay? But there is quite a bit of what I call usable energy for the rest of November. And I'm just giving you this little sneak peek to understand this, even though we're talking about October, because October is more in this retrograde mode. And then November is more in this direct mode, you see? So this will help you to better guide your actions in October to understand the energies of November more. But you will have some usable energy for the rest of November. You just have to use it with caution. And if you want to get a sneak peek about this, we'll talk about this more in the November report. But look for Annie Botticelli Venus Retrograde. I have a whole Venus and retrograde blog series. I've got a really great detailed video. And also my book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe, has a very big section on these Venus retrograde energies. Okay, so now back to this energy in October. We also have at the beginning of the month, eclipse season is beginning, okay? Because the first eclipse is November 19th, but eclipse season starts around 4 to 6 weeks before the actual eclipse. So that places us right back here at the beginning of October. Okay, so besides this big wake up for these outer planets and Mercury, we've got eclipse season beginning. So, those life-changing pieces of information, those life-changing experiences, those very big goodbyes, those very big hellos. And this is a very big wrap up because this season holds the last eclipse in the Sagittarius Gemini cycle. So what we're wrapping up here, and this energy is starting to make itself manifest in October, which is why we're talking about it now. The Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle has been in effect since around March 2020. And everybody remembers that month will go down in infamy when the world shut down. So things wrapping up at this time. Also, if you want to have some context, you can think back. So basically it was the eclipse cycle was from May 2020, but again, the 4 to 6 week period started us in March through around January of 2022. Okay, so we're here in October, we're starting to get the pieces falling together of closing out this cycle. If you want to have context as to when the last time that cycle happened, the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle, it was around 2010 to 2012. So you might see some similar storylines that came up at that time. Now what we're starting in this new cycle is the Taurus Scorpio eclipse cycle. And of course, we'll go into way more details about this in the November and December reports when the actual eclipses occur, but it's important for you to know these things now because the eclipse season starts in early October. So think back to the end of 2002 and to like through 2003, and then the second half of 2012 to early 2014. Then we've got now August 2021 through the end of 2023. And the reason why we have August here is because we do start to see a few months even before the eclipse cycle begins that sometimes little hints will come in. So that's very, very sensitive, might be harder to see that energy. So we'll just put it back to October 2021 through the end of 2023 is the Taurus Scorpio cycle. So the things that are coming in now are going to really be big players through the end of 2023. And we'll go into details about exactly where that hits in your chart in the November and December reports. For our purposes for October, just know that it's a big wrap up of the old eclipse cycle and the big beginning of the new eclipse cycle as this eclipse season starts this month. Okay, so I've given you lots of information to help you make the most of October 2021 and beyond. If you would like even more information, definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com. That is the interface for all of the things that I do for you each month, the connection to my podcasts and my Pinterest and my school and my blogs and all of that you can find there. If you would like to be an astrologer as your profession or just to do it to help your friends and family and yourself, you will love my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you think I put a lot of details into these monthly reports, month after month, year after year, you should see what goes on, the comprehensive nature of that course, which you can see at lumelife.com, Lume life.com. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.